All right, let's dive in. We're going to explore 5 Psalms today that, honestly, when you put them together, they map out this incredible journey of the soul. It's all about the highs and lows of faith, From looking at a world that feels broken, all the way to finding a song of pure deliverance. So let's get started. I mean, who hasn't felt this way, right? It's this feeling that connects us to people thousands of years ago. And that's exactly where our journey kicks off. These Psalms just dive right into that tension, that gut feeling that things are just not right, whether it's out there in the world or, deep down inside of us. So our journey begins by looking outward. And Psalm 36, man, it paints such a vivid picture of the world. It sets up this huge fundamental conflict between two polar opposites, the darkness of human evil on one side and the absolutely brilliant light of God's goodness on the other. You can really see the Psalm's central tension here. On one hand, you've got this picture of wickedness that's all rooted in self-deceit, in a total lack of fear or reverence for God. But, and this is key, the Psalm doesn't just stay there. It makes this dramatic pivot to the nature of God, talking about a love so massive it reaches the heavens, and a faithfulness that's like the very bedrock of creation itself. So this is way more than just a simple good versus evil thing. It's really establishing God's character as the ultimate unchanging reality, the standard that everything else is measured against. And then we get this incredible line. It's really the psalmist's mic drop moment. In a world that's so full of shadows and deceit, God is presented as the one singular source of all clarity. He is the fountain of life. The big idea here, the thing to really grab onto, is that God isn't just a safe place from the darkness. He is the source of the light itself. Huge difference. So the big lesson from Psalm 36? In this totally chaotic world, the only way to find any real stability is to anchor yourself to God's unchanging character. But okay, once you have that anchor, what's next? How are you actually supposed to live in all that chaos? How do you respond to all the injustice you see every day? Well, that's exactly what Psalm 37 is all about. Yeah, so if Psalm 36 basically diagnosed the problem, this epic battle of good versus evil, then you can think of Psalm 37 as the prescription. It's what's known as a wisdom psalm, and it's full of super practical advice on how to live a good life, even when the world around you feels totally unjust. This first line just sets the tone for the entire psalm. It's a direct command. Stop doing the two things that cause us so much stress and frustration: fretting and being envious. It's basically saying, hey, shift your focus. Stop staring at what the wicked are doing and getting all worked up about it. And then the psalm gives us this amazing 4-step guide. And it's so important to see that this is not a passive thing. It's an active process. You don't just, not fret. No, instead, you actively trust in the Lord, you delight in Him, you commit your way to Him, and you wait patiently for Him. See how each one builds on the last? It's like a roadmap to finding real inner peace. And here's the payoff for all that patience. The psalm gives us this great image of withering grass to describe just how temporary the success of the wicked really is. It just fades away. But in stark contrast, the promise for the meek, and by that it means those who are humble and trust in God, is a lasting inheritance and deep peace. It's just this radical call to have a long-term perspective in a world that is obsessed with instant results. Okay, get ready because the journey is about to take a really dramatic turn. We're shifting from looking at the external problem of the wicked out there to this deeply personal internal struggle with our own sin, our own failures. And let me tell you, Psalm 38 is one of the most raw, honest psalms of repentance you'll ever read. The psalmist here describes his suffering in such visceral, physical ways. He feels God's discipline not just in his heart or his mind, but literally in his bones. It's this all-consuming anguish, and he's crystal clear that it's a direct result of his sin. Wow, that imagery is just so powerful, isn't it? Sin isn't just a little mistake. It's a crushing weight. He calls it a burden that's too heavy for me. That's him admitting he is totally, completely unable to fix this on his own. He's literally drowning in his own wrongdoing. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, his internal suffering leads to external isolation. The very people who should be there for him, his friends and loved ones, are keeping their distance. It just highlights this really painful truth. Sin doesn't just separate us from God. A lot of the time, it separates us from each other too. So what's the lesson in all this pain? Well, first, it teaches us about the real, heavy cost of sin. But even more importantly, it shows us the only way forward. And that path is through honest confession. He literally says, I will declare my iniquity, and a complete, total reliance on God's mercy, especially when we feel like we have absolutely nothing else to offer. Okay, so after confronting that heavy weight of sin, the psalmist's focus shifts again. Now he starts to meditate on the brevity of life itself. It's this really sobering moment of reflection on mortality and what it all means. And it's important to realize this isn't some dark, morbid prayer. It's actually a plea for perspective. He's asking God, hey, can you help me understand just how short and fragile my life is? And why would he ask that? So that he can live with wisdom, so he doesn't waste his time on things that, in the end, just don't matter. And this is the central pivot point of the whole psalm. By finally acknowledging that his life is finite, he even calls himself a temporary resident, a sojourner. He's able to completely shift his focus. His hope is no longer in all the fleeting things of this world, but in the eternal nature of God. And see, this understanding of our own frailty, it's not supposed to be depressing. It's actually the very thing that leads to true wisdom. And all of this brings us to the climax of our journey. After wrestling with injustice, feeling the heavy burden of sin, and facing the reality of death, we finally arrive at Psalm 40. And this one is just a powerful personal testimony of God's rescue. I mean, listen to that language. This is someone who has been to the absolute bottom, the horrible pit, the miry clay. That perfectly captures that feeling of being stuck, helpless, just sinking in despair. It's the exact same kind of despair we saw back in Psalm 38. But, and this is everything, the story does not end in the pit. This is the crucial turning point. The whole psalm shifts from a prayer for help to a declaration that help has been received. It becomes this incredible personal testimony, a firsthand account that rescue isn't just some nice idea. It's a real, experienced reality. And what a transformation it is. Think about it. From sinking in the mud to standing firm on a solid rock. From groaning in sorrow to singing a brand new song of praise. This is so much more than just feeling better. This is about being fundamentally changed, about being set on a whole new, stable path. So our whole journey through these 5 Psalms ends with these absolutely vital lessons. First, God is faithful to deliver. Period. Second, the psalm teaches us that the best way to respond isn't through empty religious rituals, but through real, heartfelt obedience. Just living a life that's joyfully lined up with God's will. And finally, remembering how God was faithful in the past, that becomes the fuel for our trust in the future. It creates this amazing, powerful cycle of hope. And so we're left with this question. This journey we've just traced, from seeing all the darkness in the world to singing a song of deliverance, it's not just some ancient story. It's a timeless pattern for the human soul. So the question for every single one of us is this. In the middle of our own pits, our own struggles, what is the new song of hope that we are meant to sing?